All right, good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Yeah.
Oh, how's everyone doing? Yay. All right, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Miguel CONTRERAS. I, along with David Castillo, are founders of Rain West Collective. We're a boutique real estate firm, and one of our objectives is to create massive wins for our clients, and one of the ways that we do that is by educating our people, because we want to love on you, we want to educate you with valuable information, so that you have massive wins in your life and in your business as a real estate investor, a real estate owner. And I'm excited for tonight's topic because Airbnb is such a hot topic these days. It's somewhat misunderstood. It's heavily litigated in some areas, and people are intimidated to get into the business. So I'm excited to have Evan RUNDLE with Novik, who's a master property manager, amongst all other things, that deals specifically with Airbnb. So tonight you're gonna learn a lot about Airbnb, how to grow, how to get started in the business, how to grow the business, how to scale it, best practices. And without further ado, I'm gonna hand it off to Evan. So big round of applause for Evan.
Alrighty. Hi guys, I'm Evan, and thank you for that intro. And let's give it up for everybody at this
Rain West.
Amazing. Thank you for putting this together, and appreciate you guys having me tonight. So yeah, Airbnb. Let's get into it. I love what he said, very controversial. That's how I feel. So like I said, my name is Evan. I'm the CEO and founder of Novik. I started in 2015 in LA and did really well in that area. Came here on vacation, fell in love with it. I'm one of the evil guys that moved here and started developing in your city, so sorry for that. And just implemented everything I was doing there into San Diego and fell in love with it here, moved here. Still have some units in LA, but this is definitely where I want to be, and there's so much opportunity here. You hear that San Diego is like an island where we've got North Park, you've got the ocean, you've got Camp Pendleton, you've got Mexico, and so everything in between that is basically dirt, and there's plenty of opportunity left here in this city. We're going to talk about licensing, we're going to talk about regulation, we're going to talk about best practices. So no further ado, let me get into it. We're going to start with some nice little case studies. I already talked about all this boring stuff. You know, we've got 150 million in real estate under management and master lease. We've done over 30 million in host payouts to date. It's pretty excited about that. And we manage everything from a 250 square foot studio all the way up to a 9-bedroom mansion, multifamily, commercial, everything in between. But let's talk about some case studies. So, who else here has ever hosted on Airbnb? Anybody? Everybody that's hosted? Okay, we got 1, 2. I'm sorry for the stress that has caused you. I'm sure you've had some sleepless nights. It's a lot. It's a lot of work, and as you guys probably know, it's more competitive than ever. The secret's out. When I started in 2015, you could do anything. You could put a freaking airbed on the floor and put it up and make a couple hundred a night. In fact, that's how the name started. I don't know if anyone knows this. Airbnb comes from airbed. B&B. And it was a couple college guys that wanted to sleep in each other's places when they were on vacation and throw an airbed on the ground, and that's actually how it got started. Today, it's an industry. And just like any industry, you have to take it seriously. Gone are the days of taking iPhone photos and throwing them up and hoping for the best. This is a job, it's a business, and if you do it the right way, you can make a ton of money at it, and there's still plenty of money to be made. So the first case study here, this unit on the left, that's a 9-bedroom mansion like I mentioned earlier. That's actually the highest grossing Airbnb in the zip code, in the 92101 zip code. And the reason it does so well, a couple things. One, it caters to a very large group. As you can see here, you can get 14 guests in that property. So bachelorette parties, families, traveling groups, you name it, right? Convention center, there's a lot going on in the area. And so people come in groups and they want a place to stay. When you guys travel, if you're staying 2 or less, you usually stay in a hotel. But 3 or 4, you want a kitchen, you want a living room, you want the ability to congregate. Who likes renting 4 different hotel rooms down a hallway? Hopefully they're together. Nobody likes to do that. So the industry has spoken and the demand is there, but you have to be competitive, and we feel having bigger units is one way to do that. Also, you have to have excellent customer service. So Airbnb highly favors these guest favorite listings. If you don't have excellent customer service, your reviews are going to tank, and then Airbnb is going to throttle your listing down in the algorithm, and nobody wants that. Some other things that make this case study interesting is I don't own this. I master lease this. This is a rental arbitrage deal. I am going to buy it one day, but I wanted to cash flow it first for a while, see how it did. It did really well. Now we're considering buying it. And like I said earlier, you want to create a unique experience. So this facade, people take selfies in front of it. They tell a story about it, right? It's different than going to an AC Marriott, and it's the same design, the same boring things you see every single time, right? So you want to create an experience. We were just talking prior to this about your property out in National City, and you've got gas lamps, like actual lamps in the street. That's something that I remembered the second I saw that, and I told other people about it. That's what you want to do with Airbnb. Another case study here. This is a co-hosting opportunity, and this is something that I can talk to you guys about today. That's probably the easiest way to get into the space is you buy a property, sell a property, invest in a property, and then a company like mine co-hosts it or manages it for you. And so this was an owner in Gaslamp that just recently gave us some of his units, and we're already crushing it. He's already a super host on Airbnb. All of his listings are guest favorites, and he's generating well above 2x on the market rent. So he was on the fence, right? Do I lease it out to a long-term tenant or do I do it on Airbnb? Well, we've over 2x'd his market rent every single month to date. And obviously there's fees and cleaning fees and taxes that come out of that, but he's doing really well. Also, like I mentioned earlier, we have kitchens, washer dryers, different things to differentiate yourself from hotels. This is another owner, another co-hosting model. This gentleman gave us 18 units, the guy I was talking to you about earlier. So we came in, we cash flowed them all on Airbnb. Not only is he keeping it, his investors are thrilled, and now they're talking about doing more deals with us. So it's not just a way to make more money, it's also a way to make deals pencil and save deals. Again, in this one, we do co-hosting, epic design. You have to go above and beyond. These photos pop, there's colors. You got less than a second to get someone's attention when they're swiping. So you really have to invest in design and experience. Also high occupancy, like I mentioned earlier. Even though this is a studio, it's pretty big. It's got a Murphy bed, it's got a day bed, it's got a table for 6 people. So even though there's only one bathroom, we'll sleep 6 people in there, and they don't mind. They're only there, you know, to go to Gaslamp, have a couple drinks, come home, right? They're not there for months and months. So you're able to activate spaces differently for short-term rentals than you are for long-term tenants, right? No way would a family of 6 ever want to live there, but 6 friends on vacation, all right, you got to share a bathroom, not the end of the world. And again, it's got a kitchen. Some more quick case studies. Another owner, this is a cool one. So an owner bought this as an investment property, and again, it didn't really pencil. And so he was going to have to let go of it. It's 5 units, and he's getting a permit to build, I think, 42 units. This is in North Park. But to carry it during that time, he was going to be underwater. So he hired us to cash flow it for him on Airbnb while he's getting the permits, doing the due diligence, raising the rest of the capital. And so instead of him losing money that whole time, he's actually making money. And here's the beauty. When he knocks this down, we get to keep those licenses. And when that new property is built, those licenses, because they're on his address, get to stay on that address. And he knows what they're going to make. So imagine being able to build something, knowing ahead of time what that unit's going to cash flow. It's unreal, right? So that's a really cool opportunity. But again, you have to spend the money, take the pro photos, make sure you activate the space with good furniture, good design. And again, we've got a high guest occupancy and high-end furniture, and again, a guest favorite. Very important to have that. So this is a different case study. This is a single-family home. The people that own this are really close friends of mine. They're lovely people, and they'd never done Airbnb, and this was their home where their kids grew up in, and they didn't want to sell it, and it had a lot of nostalgia for them, but they didn't need it anymore, and they didn't want to let go of it, so they're like, hey, what could this make, right? And it's kind of off the beaten path. It's in like Sierra Mesa area, so none of us really knew what would happen, and it's going really well. We're way above market rent. They didn't have to sell it. They got to keep it. Now when their family comes to town, they all get to have dinner there, and we block the date on the calendar, so they got to keep that home. It's going up in value this whole time. It's appreciating in value, and any lender or buyer is going to look at the NOI. Very, very important, guys. The NOI goes through the roof. If you have a tenant and they're capping that rent every month, there's only so much you can make every year. With this, because we're co-hosting, all that money now goes into their bank account, and they get to go, hey, lender, look at this. I'd like a refi. Hey, potential buyer, look at this. It's going to cash flow way more than a long-term tenant. So All of these things add up over time. Unique experiences, right? So we went all out on this one. Because it's off the beaten path, we had to add everything. So ping pong table, fireplace, hot tub, fire pit. We really had to make the Airbnb itself the experience because it's not in a walkable area. So this is going to cater more to people that actually want the Airbnb itself to be the destination. So this is actually an arbitrage deal on a commercial property. So the owner had it. You can see the photos at the top. Hadn't been updated since, I don't know, the 70s. Old furniture, old wallpaper. I mean, this thing was absolutely brutal. And the owner's in his 70s, doesn't have the time, doesn't have the capital, but this thing is prime real estate, right on 5th, in the middle of Gaslamp, 21 doors. And it was just breaking my heart to see how much money he was leaving on the table, but he didn't have the capital. So in this one, I said, okay, I won't co-host it, I'll lease it, I'll be your tenant. I signed a 15-year lease. I got an investor to bring in $300K, and we totally redesigned the whole thing. So if you can believe it, that lobby is actually that lobby. Crazy. All new floor, all new paint, got a muralist to come in and do a mural of downtown, all new roofing. But the beauty of this, we didn't have to pull any permits. It was all cosmetic. We got to upgrade all the rooms, new wallpaper, new furniture, added little kitchen appliances to what was already a kitchen. And then we even made some of the rooms kind of like a hostel style because it has some bathrooms down the hall, and it's doing really well. My investor that came in on this is getting a 22.31% return on his $300,000 investment for 5 years. So pretty good deal. Some more before and after. Again, you really have to go all out on design. You can't even believe that that's the same room, but it is. And what's really cool, the name of this hotel is called La Ventana, and it's this little window right here. Ventana means window, in case people don't know that. And it's from back in the speakeasy prohibition days when they would sneak people in and they would knock on that little window, and the madam of the brothel would slide it open, check to see if it's a cop or not, slide it closed, and let them in. So we actually, that window's 120 years old. Pretty cool. Some more before and after. And again, you want to differentiate yourself from hotels, but you want to still give that hotel vibe, that hotel feeling. It's clean, it's modern, you know what you're getting. And I think having that consistency is super important these days on Airbnb. I think that's actually the biggest problem with Airbnb is the lack of consistency. So, top tips for 2024. I mentioned a lot of these earlier. Your cover photo. You've got less than a second. As we're scrolling, less than a second. Drone shots. Where is it? What's special about that property? Why do I want to go there? So that's the most important is your cover shot. And then you only get 5 photos. So in this one, because it's a very small space, we wanted to show the biggest photos with the living room, the dining area, the studio, but it's only a studio. So we really wanted to give the user a feeling that it's a little bit bigger maybe than it is, but otherwise they won't book. But you do get, obviously the guest favorite and set their expectations the right way. So photos are very important. Your title, okay? So you want to tell a story with your title. You don't want to just say, you don't want to name the Airbnb and say the Red Door Airbnb. Nobody knows what that is and nobody cares, right? So you don't want to try to brand the Airbnb as much as you want to describe what it is. And you want to describe what the user is going to experience. So adventures in downtown, automatically, I'm thinking about, I'm going to have a good time in this space, right? A stylish, modern studio. Amenities, very important to include all the amenities there. Some people forget to even hit hot water. You'd be surprised. Or HVAC, you'd be surprised. People put up listings and they don't include HVAC. And if I'm a guest searching and I look for HVAC, your listing's not coming up. So make sure you get all your amenities. Local recommendations, super important. So we've made relationships with all these restaurants, all these cafes. We give incentives for them and we give our guests discount. That seems to work out really well. You want to fight your negative reviews. You want to reply to the public ones positively. Obviously, like I said, higher occupancy. So even though these are studios, sometimes we'll add an air mattress or another way to add a 3rd or 4th person in case they want that ability. Outdoor spaces, like I talked about, very, very important. And if you want the highest visible listing It's a combination of guest favorite plus superhost plus having multiple reviews, and you want to make daily changes on the listing itself. If you do all of that, you're going to be maxing out on the algorithm, and you know what I'm talking about when it comes to that. We also talked about licenses, so we'll get into this at the end in the Q&A, I'm sure. As of July 19th, there's only 743 licenses left in the city of San Diego. Those are worth gold. If you can get a license on a single family home and you're the only one on that block that has one, when you go to resell that property, it's really, really incredible. Just some more kind of boring stuff in our company, but I'll send this deck out to anyone that wants it. We do custom pricing. So a lot of people set it and forget it. You can't do that. A lot of people just put like the same amount for the weekday and same amount for the weekend. Not a good practice. You have to have dynamic pricing. We also dedicate a cleaner for every property, so it's the same cleaner going back every time. It keeps it nice and consistent. Response rate to guests, we respond automatically every time, whether it's an automated message or somebody on my team, 99% response rate. And then obviously getting your time back, super important as an owner. Screening, we don't do auto check-ins. So we were talking about, unfortunately, a squatter earlier. And it's very important that you don't do auto check-ins. And so what we do now as standard practice is we check their ID every single time and make sure it's the same person checking in. And we make them sign a short-term rental agreement. So it's not just Airbnb that's protecting us, but we actually have our own secondary agreement that if they don't leave when they're supposed to leave, we call the sheriff and they're gone. 24-hour customer service, security. So we have cameras everywhere. We monitor who's coming and going. Do they have extra guests? And we'll talk about cameras. It's a point of contention. Only on the outside of the property, obviously. But, you know, are they smoking? Are there extra vehicles? Did they bring a dog, right? These are all things that we can catch and filter. But yes, very clear, only on the outside. There's been a lot of buzz in the media about that lately. Cleaning, obviously, that goes without saying. House rules, we make them sign house rules. No extra guests, like I said, limiting the smoking, limiting parties, basically kind of more of the same stuff. And then this is just a fun slide that I'll probably answer through your questions, but you know, why do you need a management company? And the answer is you don't. You guys can do this on your own, and we have a couple hosts in here. But for people that don't have the time and don't want to leave a ton of money on the table, I'm telling you, the first year that I did this, guys, I cleaned all the units myself, I built the furniture, I mounted the TVs, I tried to save every penny, and I left so much on the table. I wish I would have just hired someone else to do it, but I did learn a ton, so that is true. And that's it. So obviously, I'm sure you guys have some questions, and I'll open it up to the floor. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. How about a big hand for Evan? So we have some seasoned hosts here and some rookies or people who want to get into the business. We're going to open it up to a question and answer period. I'm just going to come by with the mic as we're filming this so that we can send this out to you if you want to review. We just want to make sure that we get your questions clearly on audio. So if you have a question, let me know and I'll come by with the mic for you. Anyone have a question? Oh, you guys got everything. Yeah, let's go. There you go.
So what about someone like me who does not own a property yet and is thinking about some kind of investment like that, especially in San Diego where it's so expensive? Is there still opportunity for someone like me to jump in even though I'm behind the 8 ball?
100%. Yeah, please.
And what kind of initial investment are we talking about to get in?
I don't think you're behind at all. I think you have a great team here, first of all. They can help you find some excellent properties. It depends on your buy box. It depends on what kind of investor type you are, right? So is it a 1031? Are you looking for syndication? Are you looking to do your FHA? Are you first time? Are you going to do multifamily and house hack and live in one? So really it's getting a great team that can understand your wants and needs, and then working with someone like myself that can help underwrite those deals, right? So you throw me a single family home in La Jolla, I can tell you what it's going to make based on the data. Obviously, it's an assumption, but you can know pretty quickly whether or not it's going to be a good investment. And most deals that are not penciling today are penciling with Airbnb. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so would we be using that future income to help solidify the deal? That's what I'm saying. The down payments and stuff to get in seem like they're getting further away from us, but can we use future income as part of that deal. Is that what you're saying?
I've never seen someone do that. But like I said, syndications do exist where if you and a friend, family, other people want to pool their money together, that's actually how I bought my first property. So there's different ways to get into it, especially if you don't have too much money at the beginning. Yeah.
Evan, can you touch a little bit on rental arbitrage? Because if you don't necessarily need to own the
Yeah.
property, you can rent it and sublease it.
So rental arbitrage is actually how I got started. When I first started, I could not afford a property. There's no way, and I was young, and I had no background, and I had no idea what I was doing, frankly. And so instead of buying, I leased a property, right? Just like I talked about with that hotel, and told the landlord, hey, look, I'm gonna pay you every month. Here's a big deposit. I'm gonna furnish it. I'm gonna do all the work. You're gonna get your rent, but then I'm gonna go sublease it on Airbnb. And that's extremely profitable. It's also extremely risky because there is seasonality. And if you don't understand the peaks and valleys and you start in January versus July, it's going to greatly impact your cash flow. So definitely make sure you work with somebody like them or myself to understand the market that you're in, the seasonality of that market, and how much capital you're actually really going to need. Because it's not just getting started. You've got to survive those valleys also. Yeah.
For example, I have a client who has 142 units of luxury apartments that they're going to finish building in a month or so. Can they do something like, because we've talked about how to we can't fill it up in a month or two, but
Right.
they're losing money. So is that something you would be able to step in with?
Absolutely. So in that scenario, you're avoiding a lease up, right? Some lease ups, a couple months. Some lease ups, a year and a half, right? So with deals like that, it depends on the lending. Very important to understand the lending. A lot of lenders on that many doors might not be cool with the whole thing being Airbnb, but sometimes they're cool with 20% of it or 15% of it, right? So we would work with that owner. We want to understand their lending structure. How did they buy it? How do they own it? What's the life of those loans look like, right? Is it a bridge loan? Is it a construction loan? Are they going to refinance? So the lending side of it is extremely important to understand. And then we would come in and say, hey, if your market rent on those 152 doors was $3,000 a month per door, or if it's in California, probably much more than that, this is what we could make you instead. And then it's just simple formula. And then understanding if they're going to pay for the furniture themselves, or if we're going to lease it from them, what model they want to do it under. I hope I'm not giving you too many answers, but yeah.
Making perfect sense.
So every deal is different, and there's a bunch of different ways to get there. But I would love to talk to you about that deal.
And I've lost my question. It'll come back.
Monica, you had a question when you walked in. You're talking about you have an ADU, and you're contemplating building another one, and you have your current ADU with the midterm rental. You had a question, right?
Well, I guess okay, so I own a house in Bay Park. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, cottagey, and we built an attached ADU, and we're considering building a separate unit in the property. So as far as renting it on Airbnb, would you say, can we rent all 3 units or?
Yeah, this is a
just
great question.
one?
On your property, the main house, absolutely, you can do
Okay.
Airbnb on. You get a license on the main house, and you can do midterm rentals like you were saying on the ADUs.
Right.
We're actually doing a play right now where we're going to build 8 ADUs. 4 of them are going to be affordable. The other 4 are going to be MTRs, and then the existing property is a duplex, each of which will be a short-term rental.
I
So you're going to
see.
have short-term, midterm, and
And
affordable all on one parcel.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have another one? Did you have another one?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said don't do it, right? You got that. Don't do ADUs on Airbnb.
I didn't hear. I didn't hear a thing.
If you're,
I don't
Yeah.
hear from this year.
We're gonna have a little mixer.
yeah.
It's basically, I think, the same question. So I have a house, but it's in the city of San Diego. I live 1 mile south of San Diego State. So I have an ADU. Someone who lives close to me, who Airbnb says that it was fine for him to rent his ADU behind it because the front house is his primary residence. Is that not correct?
So again,
Again, okay, we're gonna
happy
get
to talk
creative.
after. This is what I will say. We are a vendor, and we will give you all the information that you need, and then you make an informed decision on what you'd like to do, is how I'll answer that question. I have seen it done many times. Yeah. Come on, guys, give me some hard ones.
Would you mind touching on the process for obtaining the licensing for Airbnb and maybe what some restrictions or regulations are on the licensing?
Absolutely, great question. So in the city of San Diego, you need a couple things now. You need a TOT, which is a transient occupancy tax, okay? That's how the city gets their money. The good news about Airbnb is they remit the TOT on your behalf, which is pretty cool. So you don't have to collect and then think about, okay, how much do I have to give the city? It does it automatically. That's a benefit. You also need a business tax ID, so whoever's getting the license. And then you need a real person, right? Someone that has a social security number and is a real human being. But the beauty in the city of San Diego is that person does not actually have to have legal claim to that property. And what I mean by that is they don't have to be the owner and they don't have to be a tenant. They just need permission from the owner to do short-term rentals at that property. And that's completely legal. So let's say that 152 door we were talking about, that owner, whether people frown on it or not, could potentially get 152 people to get licenses at that property. Now, there's some contention around that. You may have seen in the media, there was a gentleman that did that in Ocean Beach. He got 100. Now, you can do it. Did that answer that question?
Yes.
And then my company does all that for you guys. So if you're looking to do that, it's a ton of paperwork, it's a ton of headache, as you know. But we do all that. So we basically fill everything out. You just need to answer the questions, and then we submit it and file it. Mm-hmm.
Going back to the previous slide where it said that there was only like 700 and some licenses left, I mean, period?
That's right.
Forever?
Forever. Now, here's what's interesting. We were actually shocked there was any left. We were shocked when the city passed this ordinance. There was originally 4,500 Tier 3 licenses, which is the license you want to have. And when it got enacted, we thought they would all be gone, and they're not. So at the beginning of this year, there was around 1,000. Now there's 700, so we're thinking maybe we have another 2 years. Once they're gone, though, that's it. And the city capped it at 1% of available housing. So let's say there's 500,000 available units, there'll be 5,000 licenses, and that number will grow proportionately to the amount of available housing. But as we all know, there's not enough builders, and we're not getting enough housing fast enough. So that number is going to take forever to creep up. And we can talk about different types of investments. I thought that was a good question. Something that we do is we partner with people that, let's say we found a single family home in La Jolla. Well, we would source those deals for you guys, and we would understand what the buy box is and what your needs are. And then we would basically just have a pipeline of deals, and that's what we do, right? So every month, like, we send out a newsletter and we're like, hey, we have this deal, this is the IRR, this is what we think you can do you like it or not? No, next. And so that's a good way to get in it, because if you try to do it on your own, it's like you'll get there eventually, but you'll make a lot of mistakes along the way. So I think it's good to work with a group. What else you got? Come on. That was easy.
We've managed an Airbnb for about a year. It's probably
Sorry
a
to hear
combination of your case studies there. Yeah, and so this is kind of where I'm going, where it was our permanent home, we built an ADU, we did them individually, then we found it was more profitable to say, hey, sleeps 12, 5 bedrooms, 4 baths. But we're at the point now where we, under that last bullet, right, getting our time back. And operationally, I know we can be doing better operationally when it comes to like cleaning services and laundry is what we found to be pretty expensive when you trade comforters and things like that. So with your company, your services, are the fees variable based on kind of what you're bringing to your clients?
Exactly. Every deal is different, right? And we call ourselves co-hosts for a reason. Some owners want to set it and forget it. Don't bother me. I don't want to hear about it. I just want to see the money and leave me alone. Some owners want to be in the weeds with you and in the nuances and, hey, are we doing this decor pillow versus this decor pillow? So we work with the owners based on their bandwidth and what they're looking for, and our fee can be adjusted accordingly. We had one owner, for example, that their cousin wants to clean it, and that's fine. I'm not going to try to get rid of somebody's job. They clean it. We don't deal with the cleaning at all. We just deal with the customer service side of things, right? So every deal is different. We're happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah, and so we've been lucky, we've been guest favorite and super host now
Nice,
for a while.
congratulations.
Would we stay as hosts and then your company stays co-host or
That's
vice
exactly
versa?
right.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
Cool.
Let's talk after,
Yeah,
for sure.
chat. Anyone else? Oh, here. Pass this over to Andrew.
Just throw it.
So going back to the licenses, for some of us who may be here who want a license, want to Airbnb our house, but are looking to do it maybe a year from now, can we get it now?
Yes,
You-
absolutely. And I'd recommend that.
Okay,
Actually.
yeah, I mean, it's,
I recommend it now. Now there is a charge, right? So, but that's an investment. So, and it's a very low charge. I mean, the amount of cost it would have to hold that license, we're talking like under $2,000. So it's like $1,000 to get it, plus some fees, then an annual renewal, and then plus some TOT stuff. But yeah, like for less than $2,000, you could potentially lock in a license now. I highly recommend that. As long as it's on the same address, my belief, and again, it could be wrong, but my belief is that the person can change. So let's say I had a tenant, that tenant was a bad actor, they were doing Airbnb, I gave them permission, then I kick them out. I should be able to change the person, not the address. Now, Mission Beach is different. Mission Beach is really, really bad. We got into a case where the owner was locked into that tenant. The tenant hadn't paid rent in 6 months, and they could not get that tenant off that license until 2026 or something crazy like that. So Mission Beach, yeah, don't mess with Mission Beach. And Mission Beach has 0 licenses left, not even a single one. And there's a wait list of I think 170 or something crazy. Like, so all those poor owners that are trying to do Airbnb are just not doing well.